We've got a lot of construction yet to do. May I close today's lesson on theology and ecclesiology with a brief lesson on geography. Remember years ago in an institute class I was teaching, trying to help the students understand what the church was for, as opposed to the gospel, what the church itself was meant to accomplish. Trying to teach some of the principles that we've talked about today. But I had a different picture in my mind, literal picture, of how to convey it to them. You see, I put up on the board a world map and started talking about latitude and longitude. I was grateful that as a kid somebody pointed out that latitude rhymes with flat, and so that's the horizontal coordinate. So I was asking students about different latitudes, and I put a list of cities on the board and asked the students to place them in order from north to south. And I picked cities like Sydney, Australia, and Oslo, Norway. That hopefully is easy enough to know which is further north than the other. And then some ones in the middle that hopefully were easy enough as well. Cairo, Egypt, London, England, Paris, France. I think we'd do a pretty good job, and my students did, of ranking those from north to south. But then it got a little harder. You see, I split them up into smaller groups and gave each group a card with 4 or 5 cities on it. One got the list of Boise, Idaho, Toronto, Canada, Bilbao, Spain, Florence, Italy, and Sapporo, Japan. And I said, okay, go for it. Rank them, place them in order from northernmost to southernmost. And this one was a little bit tricky. The group that got Kansas City, Missouri, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, along with Beijing, China, and Pyongyang, North Korea, they were scratching their heads. And they're starting to compare notes, like, where'd you serve your mission? And have you traveled anywhere? And what's the climate like in those areas? And just trying to rank things more based on hot and cold rather than north and south. Well, that's pretty good. But my favorite part of this little geographical pretest was to show them the answers and to watch the look on their faces when they found out. Because in every group, there was no ranking of north to south. All of those cities essentially lie on the same line of latitude. And that's what blew them away. Boise, Idaho, and Toronto, Canada are on the same parallel, and along with Bilbao, Spain, and Florence, Italy, and Sapporo, Japan? Really? For most people, Philadelphia seems like it would be further north than Kansas City, but they aren't. Same line as Beijing, China, and Pyongyang, North Korea, 39th parallel. It's one thing to link Chicago, Illinois, and Providence, Rhode Island on the 41st parallel, but to connect that with Barcelona, Spain, Rome, Italy, and Istanbul, Turkey? Most of the students are like, wait, no, what? The Windy City is the same latitude as Rome? Can that even be possible? Well, it is. And since I teach Institute at the University of Utah, I wanted them to see that Salt Lake City was on the same line of latitude as New York City. That surprised many of them, as well as Madrid, Spain, and Naples, Italy. Yeah, when you're in the middle of a cold Utah winter, Naples, Italy sounds pretty good to me. The point I was trying to make to them is that it's not just latitude that changes things. We think that temperature is all about north to south, but longitude speaks volumes of the difference between cities as well. And here's the point I was trying to make with this little geographical exercise. You see, years ago, President J. Reuben Clark of the First Presidency gave us a talk to religious educators in the church. It's such a foundational text for us that we read it every single year of our careers. It's called The Charted Course of the Church in Education. And he used this example of a sailor at sea, that because of currents and winds and waves constantly trying to blow you off course, it's wise every so often to check your coordinates and make sure that you're on the right latitude and longitude to ultimately get to your eventual goal. And then President Clark told us the specific latitude and longitude where we needed to fix our faith. He said that our latitude is Jesus Christ, that we cannot afford to deviate at all from a declaration of his divinity, a testimony of his divine sonship, his role in the premortal plan, his miraculous birth, his sinless life, his selfless sacrifice, his atonement, his death, his resurrection, the promise that he would return. We cannot afford to drift off course from Jesus. But that is only our latitude. And I was trying to explain to these students of mine just how different Salt Lake and Naples are. Do you have any idea how many Christian churches there are in the world? So many, who have all found the correct latitude, but have taught of Jesus in so many different ways that it's hard to know exactly what kind of Christ we should be following, or what it is that Jesus is inviting us to do. And for that, you have to have the correct longitude as well, which, according to President Clark, is the restored gospel of Jesus Christ through the prophet Joseph Smith. Jesus is our latitude. Joseph is our longitude. We check our coordinates and we fix our faith on the divine sonship of Jesus Christ and the prophetic calling of his prophet, Joseph Smith. By these things we know, to borrow that language from section 20, where we ought to be. Speaking personally, after decades of studying and working with other churches, as a high school teenager, I got to speak at a Catholic church as part of an interfaith event. And I've never been far from interfaith experiences ever since. Growing up in Los Angeles among very devout and very diverse friends. 8 years raising my own family in Tennessee and encouraging them to carve out space for holy envy from the members of other churches that surround them. Studying at a divinity school, surrounded by amazing people of other faiths doing their very best to bring people to light and truth as they know it. I am so grateful for churches, for the religious aspect of human existence, and to watch those churches gravitate and draw their members to that line of latitude that is Jesus Christ is incredibly inspiring to me. I have been drawn to Jesus and felt of his Spirit at Catholic Mass or at Protestant worship services, from Methodist to Baptist, from Presbyterian to Episcopalian to Quaker and everything in between. And I have been drawn to God as I have worshiped in Muslim mosques and in Jewish synagogues, as I've worshiped with friends of the Baha'i faith. I am so grateful for good people everywhere that are looking up and reaching out and making a difference in the world. Please understand that huge space I always leave for holy envy when I say in all humility that I am grateful for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am grateful for the line of longitude that we are on as it intersects with that all-important line of latitude, which is Jesus Christ. I testify of the importance of checking our coordinates and setting our sights on the point where the resurrection meets the restoration. I loved my years of divinity school as I got to study all of these things and see people becoming ministers of whatever faith it might be. But it has dawned on me that life in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is divinity school for all of us. We learn theology whenever we study our scriptures. We learn homiletics every time we give a talk. We learn liturgics when we get to be involved in baptisms or the sacrament. We learn pastoral care as we're out as ministering brothers and sisters. Do you see what the Lord is trying to do? He's trying to turn us into Christians. He's trying to turn us into people like him. And I've never seen anything do it quite like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's why I believe, and it's where I belong.